I'd like to take just a moment to talk to you today about something very important. You'll find a link in the description as well as a little pop-up card on this video, and it'll ask you to donate to Fallout for Hope. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital has a mission like no other to discover how to save the lives of children with cancer and other life-threatening diseases. Every child deserves a chance to live their best life and celebrate every moment. When you support St. Jude, you can help make cures possible for kids with cancer. Together, we can save more lives. Families never receive a bill from St. Jude for their treatment, travel, housing, or food, so they can focus on helping their child live. When St. Jude opened in 1962, childhood cancer was considered largely incurable. Since then, St. Jude has helped push the overall survival rate from 20% to more than 80%, and we won't stop until no child dies from cancer. St. Jude cares for some of the world's sickest children regardless of their race, ethnicity, beliefs, or ability to pay. Their patients receive the customized care they need to treat childhood cancer and other life-threatening diseases, no matter what barriers they might face. Because of your support, they can provide children cutting-edge treatments not covered by insurance at no cost to families. Treatments developed at St. Jude have helped raise the survival rate for children with cancer in the United States, where 4 out of 5 children survive cancer. In many countries, however, 1 out of 5 children diagnosed with cancer will survive. They won't stop until no child dies from cancer, no matter where they live. Please support Fallout for Hope if you can today, and help St. Jude care for these children. Thank you. Welcome back. Cultural values, social structures, and power dynamics help to form the identities of groups of people. Today we'll be looking at how the survival strategies of factions in Fallout 4 and their interactions with other groups help to form these identities. Let's start with the Brotherhood of Steel. The formation of the Brotherhood of Steel goes all the way back to shortly before the Great War, when the nuclear bombs began dropping in 2077. A military team was moved to Mariposa Military Base under the command of Colonel Robert Spindle and Captain Roger Maxson. The military team was unaware of what they were protecting. They had no idea that beneath their feet, scientists were hard at work performing experiments on human subjects in what is now known as the FEV research. When they discovered what the scientists were doing to the military prisoners, the soldiers began demanding justice and the execution of these scientists. The colonel took his own life, and Maxson was left to take charge of the nightmare situation. Maxson led interrogations of the scientists who he believed had gone rogue, having complete faith in the government that he served. But these interrogations ultimately led to not only their executions, but also, finally, the acceptance that all of it was sanctioned by the very government they served. Maxson's military team could not serve the government any longer, and moved their families into the base to protect them from retaliation after announcing their full secession from the United States. They received no response, and 3 days later, the nuclear weapons began to drop. Shortly after, they moved to the Lost Hills government bunker in the south. They had somehow been spared from significant radiation or direct bombing at the base, but feared that more bombs might be dropped. It took a few weeks to reach the bunker, and as the families of the soldiers had no armor, They were targets of the marauders that attacked them. Though the soldiers fought valiantly, many were lost along the way, including Maxon's wife. They now needed a new identity. They were no longer part of the U.S. military. They needed new ranks, new symbols and flags that were not linked to the horrors that they had seen. They needed something to believe in, to fight for, beyond just survival. They were soldiers without a country to serve. It was Maxon who developed the Brotherhood of Steel into what we know today. They grew, expanded, and added other military groups into its folds. In 2161, they discovered a dead super mutant. The horrors of the past had come back to haunt them. They found that it was sterile and therefore knew that someone was still creating them. Imagine their absolute horror and the anger they must have felt. They had formed into what they were because of the FEV experiments. They had thought that they had ended that horrific set of experiments. They had felt betrayed by their own government, and now, years later, they discovered that these awful experiments had continued on even after the world had been destroyed. When the Vault Dweller successfully completed a mission into the glow and joined the Brotherhood of Steel, they shared their knowledge and technology, which allowed them to destroy the Master, the leader of the super mutants. The Brotherhood then stormed Mariposa. The Brotherhood is at odds with the Enclave because it is not only the remnants of the U.S. government, but also continues its FEV experiments. They have been both friendly and at odds with the NCR at times. When they have been at odds, it has surrounded technology. The Brotherhood believes in securing technology in the hopes of preventing another great war from occurring, more horrific experiments from being started. Imagine raiders with that kind of technology. Is it not that sort of technology that allows the player throughout the series to accomplish the things that they do? In the hands of someone less valiant, the Master would be in control. The Enclave would have killed far more than they have. There'd be far more super mutants running about. House would have run Vegas until he was wiped out by another faction, and more nuclear wars may have occurred. The Fallout world would in fact be far worse for humans than it currently is. The Brotherhood has survived by keeping themselves separate from other groups, hoarding technology, continuing development of power armor, and adapting old technologies they find. They are at their very core still a military group, soldiers led by soldiers. Their interactions with other factions find their roots in how and why the Brotherhood was founded in the first place: to protect humanity from the monstrous actions of its own leaders, from itself. Due to all of this, their identity is that of a military group that fights against and addresses other large factions in the Fallout world. They will ally with the Minutemen only in Fallout 4. They view all other factions as threats. Now, let's talk about the Minutemen. The Minutemen are a militia made up of settlers and nearby settlements that can group up to defend the people at a minute's notice. They are based upon the Minutemen of the Revolutionary era. They are entirely a volunteer force, with a core group of Minutemen, colonels, and a general. Much of what they are is based upon the National Guard, with leaders being voted in democratically. They are known for their uniforms, combat armor, and laser muskets. Their focus is on building up and defending settlements. They are willing to ally with anyone who agrees not to pose a threat to those settlements. They fight mainly against raiders and the gunners, but have also fought against the Institute. In 2180, they defended Diamond City from a super mutant attack and tried to form a provisional government. This hope was dashed by a synth sent by the Institute. The Minutemen continued to grow until two key events took place. In 2249, their base, the castle, was attacked by a Mirelurk queen, and they lost their general and the castle. In 2282, they lost their general again, and the group began to fracture. In 2287, Quincy called for help, and only one group answered the call. Not only did the other groups not answer repeated calls for help, but they were in fact betrayed by a 10-year veteran of their group. The gunners hit in force, and few escaped. They were hit again by raiders, and in the end, only Preston Garvey remained. Because they are made up of volunteers and rely heavily on leadership to keep them together, they are rather easily infiltrated, and targeting leaders does significant damage to their group. Whereas losing leadership in more militaristic factions only serves to anger the soldiers who readily stand up, the Minutemen largely lose hope instead. This shows the difference between soldiers and trained settlers. Because they are primarily made up of settlers from various settlements, they do not really share a culture, nor are they a truly solid group. Due to this, they are best suited for defending settlements and avoiding larger factions. But without strong leadership that cannot easily be targeted, they are always in danger of falling apart again. Let's discuss the railroad. The railroad is a secret underground movement that began around 2220. After the massacre of the provisional government in 2229 by a synth, a debate began over whether or not synths should have rights. They have survived by remaining secretive, using code names, and trusting few. The first railroad was shut down in 2266 by the Institute. In 2267, it was rebuilt once more and managed to help a synth to escape. The railroad has multiple levels of agents, with leaders in a pyramid hierarchical structure. In 2283, an Institute scientist joined the fight by becoming their main contact on the inside. The railroad's main concern is helping synths to escape the Institute and the Commonwealth. They are known by their lantern symbol, but are covert, so they do not wear matching uniforms or fly flags. They do have heavies that use railway rifles and armored coats. This is their version of a soldier. They are primarily spies. Because they are built around the ideology of freeing synths from slavery, where one falls, another rises. Few know who they are or who leads them. They are not a huge faction, but do well fighting against the Institute through covert means. Without help, they stand no real chance against the larger factions head-on. And that leads us to the Institute. The Institute was founded by the children of the survivors of the CIT, a college in Boston. They dug their way underground and built there. They isolated themselves from the rest of the world and began work on the synths. They did attempt to work peacefully with the Commonwealth, but this failed due to their synth, which was not properly tested. This created mutual distrust and fighting, and the Institute returned to isolation. As a group of scientists, Their technology quickly outpaced the rest of the Commonwealth, and they began to see themselves as superior to others. They entered and left only by teleporter after 2180, sealing themselves off permanently and gaining a huge advantage over other factions. They sent groups of Gen 1 and 2 synths to scavenge for what they needed, which resulted in entire settlements being destroyed. They began FEV experiments in 2178, but radiation-induced hereditary damage could not be overcome, so in 2227 they stole a pre-war baby from Vault 111 and used his DNA to create third-generation synths. In 2226, they began fighting against the Railroad, who sought to free the synths. The Institute is led by a directorate, made up of the heads of each division and a director. The divisions operate independently, and the director sets policy and resolves disputes. Divisions rarely know what is going on in other divisions, and this allows for unfortunate facts to remain hidden. Their focus is on technological development and self-interest, protecting themselves at all costs. The Institute believes that the end justifies the means, and that taking what little those above ground have is necessary for their continued success. They intend to one day reclaim the surface once the current residents die out. They have a limited number of scientists with small groups in each division. Their main enemy is the Brotherhood of Steel, which is absolutely opposed to their operations, but certainly the Railroad is one as well. While they do not see the Minutemen as a direct threat, they do oppose their attempts to form a larger government or community, knowing that it would make the communities above ground less easy to manipulate or to take from. The Institute sees itself as being the only humans deserving to be saved, and are directly responsible for the creation of super mutants, including Swan, who they experimented on for the crime of stealing cigarettes. They replace humans with synths that they use as sleeper agents, and use an army made entirely of synths. They also employ synth crow spies, which are employed as live feeds, and have a network of paid merchants as informers. Their symbol is the Vitruvian Man. Looking at how each faction is founded and formed, how they develop, we are able to see how they became what we see today. Each has different views, different priorities, and different beliefs that feed into why they developed into who they are. While some factions favor secrecy, others are highly militaristic and feel no need to hide, while yet others are made entirely of the settlements of survivors above ground. It is their interactions, experiments, and actions that form the majority of the chaos found in the Commonwealth. Peace is not possible between all of these factions because their core beliefs differ so greatly. And so there is war. And war never changes. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.